with you guys, actually.
I think you may be
rare.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Inside Movies Galore, where we are continuing our prehistoric age film walking, and whatever else you feel like doing, actually. So sit back, relax, enjoy that time machine ride, and we'll bring you back to Brandon. What are we going back to?
Well, for our final journey into the past, we are going to be discussing the 2002 animated film by Blue Sky Productions called Ice Age, directed by Chris Wedge and Carlos Saldanha. A lovely little film about a bunch of misfits from the Ice Age era as they decide to move from the icy edge of the world to greener pastures. Unfortunately, fate has dropped something in their path.
I would add the disclaimer that, unlike our previous podcast, this one has been rated G by an all-Velociraptor jury. Continue, sir.
Well, and it features the voice talents of Ray Romano, Dennis Leary, and John Leguizamo.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a spoiler warning for those of you who haven't seen this film. Just to make sure, if you're trying to do that, I would watch it first and then check this out. So, with that being said, I guess we can dive in. So we've got a bunch of y'all here. Why don't we start with Dane? Is this your first viewing of Ice Age?
Definitely not. Although I will say it was my first time viewing it in quite a long time. But I remembered seeing this film when it first came out on VHS. It was one of the last VHSs my family bought. Because by that time DVDs were pretty quick. It's not like today where when Blu-rays came out, DVDs didn't exactly go away. They have still stuck around amazingly. But at that time, VHSs were pretty clearly on their last legs.
After A History of Violence, they were basically gone.
Yeah, History of Violence was the last one, the last VHS tape.
Somewhat come back in a sense, not as much as vinyl has, but
in a niche format, yeah. But the point is, like, that was like one of the last VHSs that I can remember our family getting, and it was something that I saw. It was kind of like, honestly, my history with this film is similar to my history with Monsters, Inc., because that only came out the previous year. And they were films both that I watched quite a lot, like when they were brand new and, just because they were new and different and all that. But they're ones that didn't really grow with me over time. And when I saw Monsters, Inc., I would have been like maybe 9 or 10. And then with this film, I would have been like 11. And, they were both kind of at a weird time that only got weirder in the years to come, where like I wasn't really quite a kid anymore because I was starting to see movies that I wouldn't have seen just a few years ago, a few years prior to that. And I wasn't quite a kid anymore, but I wasn't really an adult either. And, so it just felt kind of like it was just a weird time in my life. Plus, I distinctly remember watching it it might have been even the day before I moved away from California to North Carolina. So again, a weird transitional time in my life. But I didn't really watch it much after that point. So I have very distinct memories of it being kind of like this very last part of my time in California before the big transition period. But having watched it, actually, the times have changed. Watching it on Disney Plus, because Disney bought 20th Century Fox and Blue Sky Studios and everything. So watching it on Disney Plus, of all things, which I guess it's the only one of the Ice Age films that's on there. They haven't put the other ones on yet, but yeah. So watched it for the first time in quite a while, and I felt more or less the same that I kind of always felt about it, which was like there were bits and pieces that I liked, but it was not anything that really stuck with me in any particular way. Like I, it's perfectly good if people love it, and I don't like hate it or anything. Like I think I went through a kind of hate it period, but like now it's more just like whatever. It's just kind of there.
I think I kind of went through that with just those animated films like that in general, though.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I ain't about it, but then secretly inside I was, So it was like eventually you realize like I kind of do want to watch those actually.
Well, I think the thing is like it was so there's a big confluence of events here because this was right on the cusp of me moving to California, from California to North Carolina. So there's that. It was like after the year 2000 when Disney, as a company, at least in the Walt Disney Animation Studios, in that part of their business, that was when they really started to go downhill in a big way. Now, Pixar was doing great, but the traditional Walt Disney Animation Studios, like, those were going way downhill, really fast, and Disney as a whole was
dead with Atlantis for me.
It really, well, I liked Atlantis, but I never actually saw it until I was older. But like the point is, like, Disney was not what I had always known it to be, and so I was pretty disillusioned because it had been such a big part of my life, and so then I was just on the cusp of this other big change, and then you had DreamWorks and Blue Sky kind of rising up to fill the void of Disney there, and so it was very much a sea change there, and Disney didn't really bounce back until the 2010s, and then now they own everything. But it was definitely a dark time in Disney history and in some ways in my life. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to think about just because I associate it so heavily with that part of my life, but the film itself, like it's okay, it's serviceable. The animation, I never really noticed it until now, but like uh well, there's something that I noticed about, well, okay, at the time I never liked Scrat, the whatever that is, the swirl, because I remembered thinking it was really irritating like when I was a kid, and I still feel that way today, but except that now there's like this added element of like creep factor to it because I think it's the eyes and the teeth and the weird jerky quick movements. I'm like, I do not want that thing staring at me in the middle of the night and like
if
you know with
think
his
about it, like the crackhead from the Dave Chappelle sketches, it makes the whole thing so much more funnier.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
think about it like the crackhead, and he's chasing a crack rock. Like that was for some reason what was heavily in my mind this last time.
It's not far from that, but I mean I don't know. There was just something. I think it's the eyes are just so freaky looking, and the only character that I really like. I mean, not that I dislike any of the three main characters, but like the one that I do like actively is Sid the Sloth, just because I think I like John Leguizamo. I don't really get the hate that he gets from a lot of people. And I always liked that character out of the three the most. But looking at it at now as an adult, like he's also kind of weird looking because he's got like those really tiny beady little eyes that are like spread way far apart. And I'm like, the animation, obviously this is their first, Blue Sky's first film. They were kind of getting their sea legs, but I was like, man, the animation, looking back at it, is like the designs are really freaky looking in a lot of ways.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
And you get to see when they're going through like that cave, an evolution of the sloth.
Yeah.
And that was kind of freaky too. Also,
make no mistake, Weavers. Sloths used to be horrifying. Okay?
Yeah,
those prehistoric sloths used to routinely eat large creatures.
That proto sloth thing, and then the
have
dinosaur.
Have you seen that Geico commercial with the sloth playing Pictionary?
No.
Okay, there's a sloth that is just drawing like 1 or 2 lines, and they're trying to guess what the fuck it is, and he's just going very, very slow.
Oh yeah.
So the way that he's so slow, and watching Sid how he's just so fast, you know.
Yeah.
I think of the movements of a sloth very slow.
Well, that's what Zootopia got right.
Yeah, I was
years
just
later.
gonna say.
Well, but I agree though that the bits in the ice cave there where you see the anglerfish and the dinosaur and all that, like, it's a neat idea, but also like just looking again, something about those eyes, man, like they're just really freaky. I did like I had forgotten about the UFO part. That was funny. Like for the most part, like the humor in the thing was just kind of nah, like it didn't really do much for me except for like 1 or 2 things, and that was one of them.
So, Dave, what's your first time? Is this your first time seeing it?
This is not my first time seeing it. I saw it. Well, I saw it when I was younger. I don't think I had it on VHS. I did have it on DVD and the second one at one point in time, but I think they grew legs at one point in time when I was living with some bad characters. But
who steals fucking Ice Age? You gotta be a desperate motherfucker.
That's like the
I know, right? But
that's got to be like as common as comic could be as far as kids movies go.
Just go pick one up. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
They did actually. Literally picked it up.
They true. They did
really
pick one
like
up.
This particular Pixar film because it's
not a Pixar film. It's Blue Sky Studios.
Well, Blue Sky to me it felt like Pixar at the time, and I assumed that it was a Pixar.
The designs are way uglier than Pixar.
Oh yeah.
Well,
maybe early Pixar.
I kind of
could be forgiven for looping all these into just a general genre, of Pixar. Yeah. Like
I put them in with the same category, so I apologize. I guess
I would disagree. Putting anything Blue Sky lumped in with Pixar, I would disagree with that.
Yeah, Pixar is like fine wine, and then Blue Sky is.
Well, but then you're also looking at that from the perspective of people that watch the movies, from your average probably adult, outside of this, the majority of this group of us here.
Well, I mean,
they're looking at it like whatever that animated shit is I bought for my kid,
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately, I think, part of the problem with the Ice Age series is that they seem to, and I've only seen this one. I haven't seen the other ones, to be fair, but like, it seems like conceptually they're kind of in existence as part of the put this on so your kid will shut the fuck up kind of genre of kids films.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, they do the job insofar as that goes, but not really much more.
Which makes it all of them.
The film begins with Scrat. Let's be honest. It begins with that creature, and he punches that nut into the side of an ice thing and starts the Ice Age. That's pretty much it.
I want to punch him in the nuts. Let me tell you that. It's like I always thought that thing was annoying. I always thought he was annoying. I always thought that he was pretty much only there for the trailer, and they just kind of have to find ways to fit him in when he really has nothing to do with the plot.
Well, supposedly
he's everywhere throughout the series.
Yeah, but it's like they just stick him in,
He was originally there to give the film a bit of, I guess, humor and to introduce the Ice Age part of the story right away. Yeah. But the test audiences loved him, so they inserted him later in the film at various points.
Well, and I don't know if they still do that, but it used to be like the thing they did for those animated movies was they had like a short that would circulate beforehand, and that's usually ones they would play in the theater for other shit or just shorts in general.
And that's fine. I mean, Pixar still does that, and I'm perfectly good with that. It's just like
Ice Age was first coming out. It was Scrat that we first saw.
Yeah,
on the screen, and it was He was in the trailer.
Well, and that's kind of what turned me off to it, like, at first, before I even saw the movie, because it was, like, my parents just got it because it was new. But, like, you know, when I saw the trailer, I was like, this thing is really irritating, and I thought that as a kid, you know, so...
I thought he rocked.
I thought he was great. Now,
I know
I might have even been smoking weed by then, so it was pretty funny to me at the time.
That Snowman and Frozen, now he is fucking annoying.
I love Olaf. Well, see, like, Olaf serves a purpose in the story, but, like, it just seems like with Scott, like, they're just trying to fit him in there, and it's almost like a... See, it's like, you know, a Looney Tunes character kind of stuck in the middle of this otherwise just kind of bland story, but...
He was a Looney Tunes character, yes. Well, the rest of your impression, we kind of hamstrung your first impression. Go ahead.
Huh?
We kind of hamstrung your first impression. Go ahead and finish.
Oh well, the thing is, what I was leading up to was the fact it surrounds around three stories. You've got the man, the caveman Neanderthal families part of the story where they're trying to go south. You've got the story of Sid and Manny coming together, and you've even got the tigers that are just trying to evidently get food. But I like how the three got together and how eventually they became friends over the fact that that they all ended up being the carrier of this baby back to its family, you know.
Basically a prehistoric version of Three Men and a Baby.
Yeah, I thought that myself. I was like, oh.
I love that film, so I can't really say anything.
I love it too. I'm with you, Brent.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna move forward, but if you got something else, we're gonna finish that
thought.
Well, Mo, was this your first time seeing it?
Oh, dude, no. I think I was like 15 when Ice Age came out, so I was still at that age where I was like, I mean, most of you guys know I've been like a horror kid since I was like 6, but my parents would still make me go to stuff like this with the family, you know, because it's like, we don't want them at home in the dingy basement watching fucking Jason movies, like being a creep. So we're going to drag them out to fucking the occasional family film. And that's basically how I saw Ice Age, was they made me go with them to the movies, you know. I enjoyed it. In hindsight, like looking at it now, because I think I can feel some of what Dane was saying, where I was at that age where I was like, fuck these movies, bro. Now looking back, I kind of was like Sid, and you know, I was making mutant toys and like listening to heavy metal and just fucking around with horror movies, you know. And so I look back now and can appreciate little dark things like that in the movies, and the adult stuff that they put into it. To obviously, I mean, they pretty geniusly craft most of these movies to be appealing to children and also to adults, which is, I don't imagine, the simplest task in the world, you know.
When you say Sid, you mean from Toy Story?
Yes. Well, I'm sure some of the sloth.
I'm not sure this Sid was quite so metal.
But
you know what I mean.
But by this point in the game, I was indifferent to. It would have been cool. I was indifferent to these movies though, and I think maybe now I appreciate Ice Age a little more in terms of quest movies. It's probably, you could put it right there with like Quest for Fire.
Yeah.
Well, and I really felt for Manny when he stopped in front of that cave painting later on. I mean, that moment right there, I even think that I teared up at the first moment that I saw him watching that animation of that cave painting.
Yeah, they do some cool stuff in it. It is a very heartfelt little journey that these guys all go on, and there's some perilous shit along the way, and it's just a satisfying quest movie. You know what I mean?
It's deeper than you would expect, but not super deep. But
I don't think it really helped that it came out the very year after Shrek came out, because I mean, it has some similar story. It has some similar story points that match up.
Well, actually, Jake, was this your first time watching Isaac?
It was not, but it was my first time seeing it in a long time, and it was probably my second time seeing it. I do not believe I've seen any of the sequels, although I think I saw one of the short films that they did with Scrat. Because again, I think they paired one of those with the movie I went to see. Might have been was Blue Sky the ones that did the Lorax?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
the Lorax.
Yeah, that was Universal.
That was Universal. Oh, that was the
Rio was the one
you're
thinking.
You're thinking in terms of 20th Century Fox. You're thinking of 14 Years of Who, and then Universal did the Illumination.
I was trying to think of ones I actually saw in theaters, and there have not been many Blue Sky ones I actually even wanted to go see in theaters. So I don't know. But part of it, well, I didn't see it in theaters. Part of it is, it seems to me that, to me, this is not a very satisfying movie. I've always approached this series with some trepidation. I'm kind of disappointed we don't have Dustin on tonight, because he'd probably be able to throw some of this back and forth as well. But to me, the science in these films was always pretty... exactly.
What science?
To me, anytime you get a movie like this that so blithely plays fast and loose, that whole dodo sequence, I had to look it up, and I'm like, I can't figure out if they know when the modern dodo appeared, but I'm pretty sure it was long after the events of this film.
Yeah. I can almost guarantee you there was no point in the conversation when they were making this film where anybody thought that was a fucking priority.
I think the fucking baby gives the live long and prosper thing with his hand,
I love that. I think there was a conversation moment where they said, and no dinosaurs. That's my understanding of it. Which they still had that one frozen one in that one scene. But
and then the third one is Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
And that always made me, oh man, that kind of killed it for me. That's one reason I haven't bothered with the sequels. But it's, to me, so I admit that might be unfair, but it's the way I look at it. And I also learned a little bit about the pre-production of this. I learned that Don Bluth was originally involved. And when Fox told him it's CG, he told them to stuff it because he apparently hated CG. And apparently the film was originally going to be a Pixar-style, Shrek-style, this could appeal to all ages. And Fox said, no, it's going to be for kids. And so it's like, man. So Fox ruined the movie.
Yeah. Huh? That was not a wise.
No, it was not a wise call. They probably made more money this way, but still,
Well, I mean, Shrek was like a massive hit, and that was kind of an everybody movie. Yeah. Well, the first two especially were like I mean, like I thought was awful, and I never saw Puss in Boots, and I never saw I never saw the fourth Shrek movie because the third and fourth
ones were weak.
The third one just was like, I hated the third one, and it just killed the series for me. But like, the first two Shrek movies were, I mean, DreamWorks, like, they were really picking up the slack where Disney, like in their early days, they were picking up the slack where Disney had dropped the ball so many times. But yeah, I agree with you. Like that.
This was also the time really, really made a splash here, because this was about the time Spirited Away hit theaters in this country.
Yeah.
So,
boy.
and I did go see that. So
that
was,
fucking wrecks everything.
Yeah.
There was
it's a slightly different
2002. If you look back at the animation category, there you had this film. You had which one? You had Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron from DreamWorks, and I forget what the other one was that was nominated that year. But so you have a lot of films that were coming in and kind of showing them up, and like every now and again you get like those upstart ones that really, score a touchdown when Pixar and or Disney, they tend to dominate year after year, and some of the ones that I particularly remember was like one to do that, and Spirited Away, and more recently like Rango I thought was awesome, and that was through Paramount. And,
of course, that's an entire. I could easily do, as y'all probably know, I could easily go on a long rant about all the missed opportunities. Not the least of which films like Summer Wars and Your Name, and even with Disney, the year Summer Wars came out, they only had 3 nominees, and Tangled also could have made the cut. It was a good film, and then they went and put crap in there like Boss Baby, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, why did they even bother with that?
Dude, that's fucking weird. There's a copy of it on Blu-ray sitting on my counter upstairs right now. I guess my brother bought it or something.
It's not a bad kids film, but it came out the same year as freaking Silent Voice. They're not even in the same game, let alone.
I just know I saw it when I was making toast, and I was like, "What the fuck's Boss Baby?"
But you do nowadays, thankfully, you do. I mean, well, this is just a thing with Sony as a company, not just Sony Animation, but Sony as a company. You will get Sony kind of covers the polls of film. Like they'll have some of the very best things that have come out in forever, like The Social Network or
Into the Spider-Verse, if we're talking animation.
And then for worst, you'd have just the previous year, you had the Emoji Movie, and it's they definitely covered the polls, but then again, within the good side of the polls, they do have some of the very, very best. And I think someone described Into the Spider-Verse as the Velvet Underground for animated films, as far as kind of launching a new era or new style in terms of how to do animation. And and that was another kind of everybody film, but it a style all its own, whereas something like Ice Age is most definitely for kids. And I think as far as a put the movie on and get the kids to shut the fuck up kind of movie, I think it definitely accomplishes that goal. And you could do a lot worse in that regard. It doesn't really do.
That was a very weird animated year too. So
it was. I mean, I kind of put these in a similar.
We had Balto 2, Wolf Quest. We had The Cat Returns. We had Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True.
It sucked.
8 Crazy Nights.
Movie. Everyone loved that one.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
2.
Inuyasha the movie, The Castle Beyond the Looking Glass.
So that was, what was that, movie number 3?
Jonah movie. Lilo and Stitch, The Land Before Time 9, Journey to
Lilo and Stitch certainly did it some damage.
Lilo and Stitch was that year?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That was another movie that it was a weird time.
The Powerpuff Girls movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was 2001.
Return to Neverland.
Which that sucked.
Tarzan and Jane. Tom and Jerry the Magic Ring Treasure Planet, which I loved. I loved it.
I didn't for that.
I like Treasure Planet. I thought it was decent.
I never saw that one either.
I like the one that came before it, Atlantis. I like that one, but I didn't see that
rules.
Until I
Yeah, Treasure Planet.
There was a long
I was an adult.
Didn't take the time for it.
There was a long gap.
And Winnie the Pooh, A Very Merry Pooh Year.
Ew.
I think it was from Pocahontas all the way up to. Well, I don't even remember when I broke the streak, but there was a period of time where I didn't see any of the Disney films. And,
well, Pocahontas kind of.
Yeah, it kind of killed it for me.
Dude, I'm sure that exists for like
I
a lot of people, though.
I did see
Hunchback.
I did see Hunchback later.
Oh, Hunchback of Notre Dame was awesome.
I love the music to Pocahontas. I absolutely love the music. Colors of the Wind is one of my favorite Disney songs.
And here's how they rank.
Animation's a great song.
It was a horrible mockery of both the history and the geography of Virginia. And I could not. No, even as a kid, I was like, this is just not right.
Here's how they ranked that year. And this is from 1 to 10. In the number 1 spot, we had Ice Age. In the number 2 spot,
financially, or
Ice Age was in the number 1 spot. They made a worldwide gross of 383,257, or 350.
I was going to say 383,000 is pennies. That's what Spirited Away made.
383,257,136. Lilo and Stitch came in second. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron came in third. Return to Neverland, fourth. Treasure Planet, fifth. The Wild Thorn.
You're not looking at worldwide gross.
This is worldwide gross.
This is worldwide gross.
Yes.
Okay.
Because Wild Thornberry's movie made about 60 million, 694,000. Cat Returns.
Throwback.
The Cat Returns was in seventh. Jonah, a VeggieTales movie, is on the list as an 8.
Fucking Christ.
I know, right? 8 Crazy Nights was in 9th, and Detective Conan, The Phantom of Baker Street.
Thank God, at least made the
list.
That
movie.
Now, of course, if we're talking American gross, I know Detective Conan was nowhere near.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't even be
Which this just tells you the state of mind I was in at the time, because I saw Lilo and Stitch when it first came out on. Well, that would have been DVD at that time, so that would have been like 2003. We would have just gotten our PS2, which was like our first DVD player.
Okay.
And
right, because they were so fucking expensive back then.
Yeah, well, but it made sense, to kind of double up like that. But like similar situation where I thought Lilo was extremely annoying, and her voice to this day I still think is annoying. But again, it was a weird time in my life. I have since seen the movie since then, and I see more of the merits to it now. It's still not even remotely a favorite of mine, but it's I see why it would mean something to, say, my ex-fiance, who really connected with that story. And I could see more of it through her eyes, but even so, it was not one of my favorites. But bottom line, 2002, as far as animation, I guess it was just a time where I wasn't really liking the same things I used to like. And that was the same year that I saw the first Spider-Man movie in the theater, super pumped as a 10-year-old kid, and it was quite a bit more violent than I was used to at that time, but I loved it because it was this is the big kid version of Spider-Man that I wanted to see. So it was again, weird transitional time in my life.
Well, dude, I think stuff like this, honestly, not to get too sappy on you boys, but that's kind of facilitating that for me, because I was pretty much wrote these off as, I've never done that, but very much what you were describing them as, which is put it on so your kid will shut the fuck up type movies. I bought them and watched them with my kid. You know, there's been a couple. Like I took her to see Zootopia. I thought it was pretty good.
Zootopia is like that's a whole other caliber of movie right there. I mean,
well, right. But like Brandon and fucking Jake have really like helped me to start thinking of them as just films, you know, instead of thinking of them as that shit, you know. Because even throughout their videos I've watched, I feel like Rango's one I feel like I've heard you guys mention several times.
That's a good one.
And they hold it on like the same regard as other stuff, which they're a lot more into like actual film and movies, and you know, like proper movies than I am. And it's making me realize a lot, you know, since the time I've known them, how much I really need to fucking start appreciating that more. Like all the shit we've covered. Talking about Sullivan's Travels was probably one of my favorite moments because it made me watch a movie that probably wouldn't have been on my radar looking for splatter films or giant rubber lizard shit, you know.
I need to watch that again. It's been so long since I've seen Sullivan's Travels, but like with Ice Age, I
always loved. Sorry to cut you off, but I always loved how these guys held those movies up like that. So it made me like, this is probably the first time I've ever watched one of these movies and thought of it as just a fucking movie, and you know, and actually to where I would discuss it with other fucking adults like this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's important to broaden your
with my kid. You know,
it's important to broaden your horizons like that. I mean, years later, I saw other 20th Century Fox kids movies from around the same period, like ones that I knew existed, but again, it was like I'm not quite a kid anymore, not quite an adult still. So I didn't see him until years later, but like I did finally see the Garfield movie, which was super forgettable, and then I saw the first 3 Alvin and the Chipmunks films because I was actually well, the reason why is because I was I worked at the Blumenthal Performing Arts Center at the time, and I had to market the Alvin and the Chipmunks live on stage show. So I said, well, as part of my research, I'm going to watch these movies, and that was like those were the 3 that were out at the time. And you know, they were definitely in the put the movie on to shut the fuck up, shut the kids up kind of category. But I'll say this, at least for me, I didn't find them irritating because for whatever reason, like there are certain kinds of voices that I find irritating, but the Chipmunks I've never found irritating. And I know a lot of people who do, but for them, I've never found them irritating.
Christmas time for cheer.
Yeah. Well,
I used to listen to them as a child, so
like the first one especially. I think the first one actually was a halfway decent, you know, origin. It kind of encapsulated a lot of the elements that made them who they were. So I mean, my point in bringing that up is you can make good, you know, kids movies that accomplish the bare minimum without being too irritating. At least for me, I mean, that's a very subjective thing because I know a lot of people who really don't like Alvin and the Chipmunks. But point is, like, I got through all those and I was able to see, like, okay, the target audience would probably like these fine, and you know, they're harmless enough. There's no, like, you know, obviously like bad messages or anything like too you know, seizure inducing or anything like that. So it's just like, you know, like it's like harmless, you know, a harmless diversion, shall we say. And not, and this Ice Age had more going on to it than that, but it not too much more, you know.
Back then, I probably would have just said they sucked. I don't know if I'd have been that nice about it, but incidentally, Road to El Dorado is one that is a highlight for me of like, you know.
Let's move on a little bit. I'll go ahead and throw my first impressions out, and then we'll move with the plot. I, of course, I watched this. I don't remember when I watched this, actually. I know I did. And because I'd seen 4 out of the 5 movies. And then I went ahead to consolidate in this big set. And then for watching this, I watched all 5 movies back to back.
Oh.
And there is an interesting...
Son.
Oddly enough, I think the quality improves as the movies go on. both in their interactions, their chemistry, and in the animation quality, which I guess could only go up from where they were. And
you would hope so.
Yeah.
And it did. It was a huge jump. Even if you just watch the second film, the meltdown is a huge jump from the original. And to me, I never really cared one way or the other. It was an okay film. A lot of people like it, so it's probably worth having in the collection. I'll watch it again later on and see if I think it's any good. And to this day, I still hold it as it's all right as far as things are concerned. But it's not something that I'm going to say is like an exquisite movie, and definitely not Rango. That's for darn sure. Matter of fact, I just threw this in because when I was making suggestions, I was like, I am running out of ideas for a prehistoric movie. I had Quest for Fire. I had to think of another one, so I just threw that out like quickly, and that was my. Because I wanted to put Godzilla.
Did no one think to throw in 1 million BC with?
Oh yeah, there's lots of good ones, man.
That was,
like
that was one of my picks.
It didn't even get. I think I got like 1 vote.
Dude, Brandon, if you take anything out of this month, you guys need to watch Planet of Dinosaurs. Not Planet of the Dinosaurs. The English is right there in the fucking title of Planet of Dinosaurs.
I have it.
You watch it, it's just nothing but awesome jumpsuits and porno stashes and perms and like, hairy house monsters and awesomeness.
I did almost put out Teenage Caveman, which
You have that one.
We could have done Iga.
True.
Yeah, that was a boring movie.
Oh God. But with that being said,
for that matter, we could have even done that Trauma movie with Kato.
Nymphoid
BC
Barbarian
Butcher.
and Dinosaur Hell.
No, BC Butcher.
BC Butcher.
Yeah.
Any of
Okay,
those.
so yes, the one that Mo just mentioned is the one I'm thinking of. I grew up on that movie. Oh, I love
yes.
that. Yeah, we need to do that one of these days.
I love that movie so goddamn
We used to have it on VHS. I wonder, is that even on DVD?
It is. It was one of the second. It was literally the second trauma movie I ever ordered when I started being like, okay, I have Toxic Avenger. I need to start collecting these, and so I ordered Nymphoid Barbarian and Dinosaur Hell. And I also ordered, I think it was Terror Firma.
Apparently, that movie is one of Troma's best performing on various VOD sites even to this day, which is rather bizarre, but it's true. Well, at least,
or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I mean, according to Lloyd's book, Sell Your Own Damn Movie, and I think that he said it was largely because it starts with the letter A, and that helps kind of put it further up in the search results. But it also, I think the title's quite catchy as well. And I've seen the movie. I haven't seen it in forever, but I have seen it. But BC Butcher was overall was a better movie. And it had the Alley Oop song in the beginning and ending credits, which was nice. I got to have my copy autographed by Kansas Bowling herself at Dragon Con, which is cool.
Nice, yeah. There's serious lack of Nymphoid Barbarians in fucking Ice Age, but I'm sure Brandon can point out some other high points.
Well, they probably were there, but they weren't necessarily shown on the screen, but I'm sure that they existed in other tribes.
So when we start out, we're at the Ice Age, and as Jake has pointed out, they really don't care about any realism, and I would like to think, in a way, they and actually it's not in a way. What they are doing is kind of parodying the historical nature and the science, as of course everybody is fleeing south to avoid the Ice Age, except for one lone figure, a mammoth that couldn't care less and will be glad to get away from everybody and the whole mess. I mean, this climate change is obviously a myth. And so he ends up going north and runs into, inadvertently saves a sloth who unlike Manny, who's trying to avoid everybody else, has everybody else trying to avoid him.
Except in the original version. The original version, apparently, there was a stalker that was obsessed with him, and he was trying to get away from it.
Well, and that's not at all like Shrek and Donkey.
Right.
Oh, yeah, not at all. So they end up, of course, forming an unlikely relationship as they decide to journey north instead of south.
Well, no, they decide to join up only because he saved him from the rhinoceroses.
Well, yeah, technically Manny was on his own. It was Sid decided to join up without Manny's permission and follow him around. And but that brings them into contact with the plot device that moves us forward. I'm not going to talk about Scrat. Scrat's just basically a Looney Tunes character that comes in to break the ice between scenes, literally, as he tries to bury an acorn and is constantly screwed over by Murphy's Law, apparently.
Everybody.
If we're going to basically skip, I'll just go ahead and say I do get a chuckle out of him finding a much larger nut at the end.
Of course, it says 20,000 years later.
Yes.
Yeah, Scrat's journey was epic and integral to the success of the movie. So,
well, here's what I don't get. So he puts the coconut or whatever in the sand, and it still does the cracking effect, but it's like
you can't think too hard on that one.
Well, see, and Scrat is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their short films.
Scrat is in all of their films. He's a mover. And Scrat is the comic relief character without being inserted into the group. He only interacts in a slight way, and in the way that he seems to roll everything. He starts the Ice Age. Scrat also starts the Meltdown, the second one.
He's the Forrest Gump of this universe.
Well, I like to think of it as a good sort of, what do you call it? Like a representation of how the smallest things can have the biggest consequences, in the grand history of time.
And we could look at it as if we look at another particular studio and their mascot characters, there's only one Scrat. It's not like they're minions or many.
So, he kind of drives the plot forward. I mean, shoot, in the last movie, he sends a meteor hurtling towards Earth to destroy everybody, which is, interesting.
All right, I'm going to have to see these now, I think.
So, and they are fairly well animated, and they're not bad. And I really think that at least, I want to say Dawn of the Dinosaurs introduces a fairly entertaining character that's kind of this this guy who's kind of lost his sanity in the world of the dinosaurs. So there are some, I think that they've improved quite a bit as they go on. But as far as the initial pairing of Manny and Sid is concerned, how do you all look at this initial pairing of opposites?
Well, I think it's cool. I think it's a good example of how in nature sometimes there's those odd couples.
I do think the pairing with Shrek and Donkey was more effective.
I was gonna say.
Humorous. Yeah. But
they also had with Shrek and Donkey, you had pretty high caliber comedic actors doing those things, which is not to say that
I gotta be the guy to say it, man. Despite the outside of the fucking dragon fucking jokes, I hate Shrek. I'm sorry, guys. I don't like it at all.
I'm not at all. Wow. I'm not a mega fan, but I like the first two.
There's moments in it that are funny, but yeah, it's.
Right, I know.
I like the first Shrek.
Well, I think that it's your classic curmudgeon with the annoying guy who won't shut up kind of trope. That pairing, which and again, I don't get the hate that John Leguizamo gets from a lot of people. I think he's good. I mean, I thought he was awesome in Land of the Dead. I thought he was probably the best.
He's quite good, and
he was awesome in Spawn. John Leguizamo was awesome in most shit.
I think, and also I think Ray Romano tends to be overlooked. I mean, he was one of the better parts in The Irishman. He was freaking awesome in The Big Sick, and
and let's not forget he was like, I think, he kind of took over the not the same show obviously, but like in terms of like highest paid per episode person in sitcom history. I mean, that was, I think, Jerry Seinfeld, and then once Everybody Loves Raymond came out, that was like
pretty close.
That was like the big thing as far as sitcoms and making a good living from them. That was.
I feel like we were pretty far away from the Ray Romano fucking glory days, though. When he's
but same with Mike Myers and Shrek. I mean, the 2000s, Mike Myers was on fire, and then he released The Love Guru and. Never recovered since.
Who didn't love The Love Guru?
Well, actually, most of the people involved with that have at least one major stinker. I mean, Eddie Murphy's definitely got a couple.
Oh gosh, yeah. But so, what did you think of the dynamics between them? I mean, do you think this was just another Shrek and Donkey type deal?
Not entirely, but
they're coming from that same archetype, which, to be fair, Shrek and Donkey were coming from it as well. So that wasn't exactly too unique when they were doing it either.
Yeah.
Well, that was a full-blown parody. Yeah.
I think that these guys work well together, and I think that it serves the purpose of this group trying to, move the quest forward and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Because there was a moment where the baby was crying, and they were like, shut up already.
Yeah.
And then the thing to make the baby happy was hitting the shit out of Stead.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I think for me that made it more interesting this time is, like, as an adult, I'm very much more aware of cases where animals have kept human children alive, So it's kind of neat to think about,
Yeah. Which, I mean,
like an elephant too, which a mammoth is basically an elephants are super fucking smart.
They are.
So it's not even actually that fucking outside of the realm of possibility to believe that a mammoth might have brought a baby back to its tribe at some point or some shit like that.
I actually was doing some research. Like I said, I'm a science nerd. I had to double check the science for this. And I hadn't realized this, but apparently the mammoth genus is very, very, very closely related to the Asian elephant. They're like sister groups, and they're actually much closer to each other than the African elephant is to the Asian elephant.
Dude, fairly certain them and dolphins are like the smartest races that have existed on the planet outside of humans since forever.
You say an elephant never forgets.
They're super smart. They are super fucking smart. Like, beyond, I think, what we can really think of with elephants,
And I think that's why people relate dolphins with the Lost Atlantis city and the language of dolphins or whatever. But
dolphins too. But
there are people who seriously believe that dolphins have healing powers, which is quite something. But I do think that the whole. I mean, again, they're going as far as the three of them taking care of the child. I mean, they're going through the 3 Men and a Baby kind of mold for storytelling there. But I do think that the chemistry for our main characters, that they all tend to come alive more once they can work off each other. And I do like I don't really have much of a history of Ray Romano, but I do like John Leguizamo, and I like Dennis Leary. I think that he's a good kind of no shit Sherlock kind of actor, almost like a James Woods type, except less used car salesman and more just he's not going to take your shit, kind of person.
Fuck yes, and that's probably the best description I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, because he was good as Captain Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man, and I like characters like that, people that can pull that off.
Was that show where he plays like a fucking
Rescue Me
fireman?
Yeah,
Ladder 41 or something like that.
Rescue Me.
Oh, Rescue.
Yeah. Of course, my favorite thing I know him from was Wag the Dog, which is another one I'll probably put forward one of these days.
I love that movie.
Well, let's actually, since we're talking about that, why don't we move on to that character, because we are introduced, of course, to the Cave People's tribe and their plight as they are attacked by the saber-toothed tigers.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, our third friendly character is, one of the tigers there. And he's going to help get revenge for his pack, which is interesting because there are, despite things as they are for this film, there are a few subtle points that they like to make that make it not quite as simple and straightforward as you would originally think it would be.
Right.
And this is one of those, when you think about the character of the cavemen in relation to the animals, not just to the saber cats, but to the others as well, as we discover later on in the movie. And that is a very interesting relationship. But of course, the baby gets lost, which leads our saber-toothed tiger to realize, I can't take a mammoth on my own, but they got the baby I've been sent after. So I need to stick with them until I can figure a way to either get the baby or lead them, into a trap. It's
that perfect like mole in the fucking mix type story, where you got like the closest thing I can think of, since it's what I've been working on lately, is I think it's the third Gamera movie or the second one, where there's that reporter guy that's like, yeah, I was working for the other newspaper the whole time, but you guys found me out, so I guess, I'm just going to fess up to it, and we're cool.
Well,
he just hangs out for the rest of the movie.
I've never quite understood, in this film, but also in similar ones where, if it's an animal or something and they, have a particular obsession with eating either a baby or a small child or whatever, and it's maybe just for the symbolic kind of revenge aspect of it, maybe, but it's if you're just trying to get meat, it's there's a lot more meat on an adult human than there is on a baby. I'm sorry.
This one was a revenge plot, most definitely.
Yeah.
Because the guy said at the beginning, they killed so many of us, we're getting back at these guys.
Yeah.
Head.
Sorry. He was pretty sinister. He targeted the mother and the child. He wanted them dead.
So your head saber-toothed cat is Soto, played by Goran Visnuk. And he definitely did a good job with this sinister sort of, and he got the crazy one, who I didn't even realize was Jack Black. I was kind of interested.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Dude, voice acting wise, the movie is kind of off the charts, actually.
Well, several people who are well-known voice actors, this was their first voice acting role. Jack Black, Stephen Root, Alan Tudyk. Alan Tudyk's in everything Disney does now, but this was apparently his first voice acting role. So it's kind of interesting there. And then you had that scene early on with the two rhinos, who I think were they were Frank and Carl, right? So you had Stephen Root and Cedric the Entertainer. They made a fun pair. But I think at this point, this was well after the start of King of the Hill, I'm sure. So Rude, I think, was already doing voice acting there, but as far as movies go, early one.
Well, it's interesting with Jack Black. Like, you can pretty clearly divide his career, kind of pre School of Rock and post School of Rock, because he's in a lot of movies that they don't necessarily advertise as Jack
Empire
Black
Records.
That and like Neverending Story 3, and all kinds of Biodome.
Well, yeah, I was going to say he was in a pair of Tim Robbins films, Bob Roberts and Dead Man Walking, and he just very small roles in those ones, but yeah, been very dramatic.
Very good.
When he was in The Cable Guy, which I like The Cable Guy.
It was
The Cable Guy is the best Jim Carrey movie of that period, and a lot of people don't like that opinion, and a lot of people don't understand why, but that's just facts. It was Jim Carrey doing something that wasn't Jim Carrey while being properly fucking creepy and kicking the absolute living shit out of every line of dialogue in that fucking... The Cable Guy is almost a perfect movie for what it's trying to be. It's much like Velocipaster in that way. It's just supposed to be exactly what it fucking is, and it is that thing, and it kicks ass at being it.
So what do you all think of the main plot thread of these three different animals with different backgrounds trying to escort this child back to its family?
Yeah.
Well, dude, it reminds me very much because, like, obviously Dave's going to work out. I mean, there's a very similar plot in his Atuichi movie, where he has to take that fucking baby. Yeah, it's fun to watch those types of quests play out, because it gives you an immediate thing to feel fucking sympathy for. You got those characters that are all from different backgrounds trying to just like do the right thing or whatever. And it's just fun to see them all interact with each other and then see how they all deal also with dealing with the baby. Like that's a big part of the movie, I feel like, is just that in itself there. So.
And they have various trials to pull them all together, which is interesting.
They do. I mean, my only thing there is... this is just me, but I tend to think that when movies don't have a whole lot of meaningful drama and they need to have some kind of glue to stick it together, oftentimes like their last ditch effort will be, okay, throw a baby in there and that'll be it. It's like it just more so they're playing on the very basic instinct that any human being has, which is
I'd argue Ice Age was like cast well enough that they could have had the quest be about anything and it still would have been an entertaining movie in very much the same way that it is.
I will throw in there that I think the baby is one of the best characters.
For sure.
Because the baby was fun.
Yeah.
They some moments like you're talking about, like that one moment where they all realize that if they beat up on Sid, it makes the baby happy. Which, teach the kid bullying at a young age. Great. But I actually
you're gonna learn it sooner or later,
I was kind of amused though that the baby then reached out and almost smacked him, like couldn't quite reach, but tried to. I was like, I thought that was kind of funny. But, yeah. So I admit I watch films like this, and again, it's just the science side of my persona. I have trouble getting fully invested in a party where one of them literally is going against every
I get it, dude, but would that really, I mean, the sloth in fucking Zootopia is there for like a minute. Would you have wanted to see that for the entire movie?
Well, No, I thought that
I
was
think that's one of the decisions you make making a kids film is what it's like. Well, it is for kids.
No.
Oh,
I'm meaning the not the sloth, although that he should have been slower.
My bad.
I'm meaning the idea of a predator traveling with another group. I know that's a common thing in these kind of films, but it's
we got to go with science here, and that is that sometimes you do find like nasty lions or fucking animal odd couples, bro. That's why I brought that up at the beginning. It reminded me of that, like where it's like that group of animals that doesn't make any sense, but somehow they're all best friends.
Even the tiger even the white tiger that hurt the Siegfried Roy, even the tiger that hurt Roy, it was found out that he was just trying to protect him.
I mean, it's I don't know if the tiger was really motivated by revenge or whatever the fuck, then maybe it could be in there doing that, but
I mean, sometimes you just got to do the Tiger King thing,
Drench them in sardine oil, fucking toss their ass in the cage.
Well, basically, my thing is like that doesn't kill a movie for me, but it does help keep it from being as high as it could be. You know what
I mean? Zootopia is about a bunch of like evolved like animals that are living together, but and that's not nature at all necessarily.
No, but Zootopia is a different thing. Zootopia, as you said,
it's very clearly a anthropomorphic weirdo fucking furry fantasy thing that got made into a super awesome movie for people that.
And yes, the whole idea of the sloths being the people at the DMV. And especially when you find out that he's a speed demon behind the wheel.
You guys want a sweet story? It's irrelevant to the plot, but it is pretty awesome on the DMV point. I went into the DMV once here, and it was okay because I'm Canadian. So when my fucking driver's license expired, I had to go in there, and they're like, "You need a passport and all this shit to get your driver's license." And I was like, "What?" Fucking, I've never had to do that before, and all of a sudden, like, I had to go through this whole process to get a passport. But the day that she's explaining that to me, I was in there, and she's like trying to tell me this shit, and I'm like, dude, just stop being the DMV lady for a moment, and just fucking talk to me, all right? Because I can't understand a word that you're saying. Like, you're just telling me all this shit out of your book. But I told her, I was like, stop being the DMV lady and just explain it to me, please. I need help, And forever since I've been known in the DMV, it's like, it's the don't stop being the DMV lady guy. Like, they fucking point it out and say it when I come in there. It's fucking
4 years old. Explain it to me in English.
Yeah, I told him straight up, just stop being the DMV lady and just tell me what I need to fucking do. And she did. She helped me out. Like, if it wasn't for that lady, I wouldn't have figured it out. But forever since, when I come in there for anything, I'm the, stop being the DMV lady guy.
I will say with the plot, I mean, a lot of the stuff is just trials they overcome to bring them together. But there were two to me that stuck out. And of course, you all can counter me if you feel I'm wrong about it. One, I don't know why I'm entertained by this, but the whole dodo thing, something about that just made me laugh. And then the other one, which is more of a plot centric, was the ice cave and finding the cave paintings, which gives you actual background into Manny's past and why he is the way he is. And looking at that, you can see, and this is the thing that, and again, it's sad that I'm trying to shill for a movie that I really don't care anything about. But
I don't even know if it's shilling. The movie probably deserves the praise on those.
But I mean, but sometimes it's good to try and take a stand on something and see where it goes.
For sure.
But to me, if you look at it with the plot wise, really Manny and the leader of the Saber Cats are two sides of the same coin. Both of them were harmed egregiously by the same parties.
Yes.
And yet one sought the path of revenge, while the other eventually sought the path of redemption. And it's I just thought it was an interesting thing to stick into a kid's movie.
It really
it's
is
not something that most kids would be able to get off the bat. So
I agree.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool concept to throw in there.
Well, and for a moment there, when Manny was just standing there, Sid was going on about, "Hey, Manny," and he's like, and the tiger's like, "Dude, chill. He's having a moment." You know, I think that at that point in time, that's when the tiger, Diego, he understood things about Manny. You know, from there out. So, which is why I think he told him about the plan that the Tigers had later on. So,
well, that and he saved his life also with the lava thing. But yeah, I agree.
but in any case, did anyone have a favorite?
Well, I mean, well, also we have the of course, music and effects, but of course, well, I'll finish the wrap up of the plot. They have the fight between the Sabers and the group, and they come together as a team of 3 and manage to overcome it, save the child, and return it, realizing that they don't need herds because they are a herd of their own.
Exactly. Ragtag group of adventurers that fucking came together through like this long journey of trials and tribulations to do the right fucking thing, you know? And I love that shit. I don't think I thought of this movie in the same way back then. Well, I know I didn't. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to watch it again, for sure.
And now, of course, we have the opportunity to get into the music and special effects. We talked about the beauty of the animation, but what else was computer animated at the time? Well, it was definitely prettier than VeggieTales, but that's not saying anything.
I mean, there was stuff that was better than it, but there was stuff that was a whole lot worse, you know? So it's hard to really put it there. I mean, I would say I always thought of it as like proper high-end animated shit. I never thought of it on like the VeggieTales scale.
What was the Pixar one at that time?
I'm not even sure.
The year after Monsters Inc.
It had to have been around that time because Monsters Inc. was one of the last ones too that I actually let my family drag me to the theater for. So
yeah, Monsters Inc. was 01 if I remember correctly. So I don't think they were on it every other year at that point. They were more like every 2 to 3 years.
Monsters Inc.'s right there with Toy Story 1 and 2 for me, a favorite of these types of movies. Yeah, so
that's a good one.
It is.
So so definitely the best of computer animation was ahead of this thing, but then again, it wasn't too far behind if you think about it either, because I mean there were much worse things out there within the same.
Oh yes, and it fully makes up for it with story and characters and things like that. So
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And now Shrek is the only one I could say I'm not sure I would put Shrek necessarily that much above it, because I think Shrek was below Monsters Inc. in my opinion.
I think I'd put Shrek above it because you guys liked it a lot, and at its time it was like a breakthrough thing. But I think that Ice Age, probably the characters are a little bit more deep and likable, maybe for my taste. I don't know. But
I think Shrek, the people behind it, had more control over the film, and that had a stronger feel of they knew what they were doing, if that makes sense. Like,
right.
It was pretty much a full-blown fairy tale parody. I mean, it really was, and they did pull their punches in some areas, but not And also, it was DreamWorks was co-founded partly by Disney expats, and Trek was loaded with digs at Disney. I mean, it was
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. All that stuff aside, on the technical shit and like maybe some of the writing, I would say that maybe Ice Age has a little more heart than Trek. You know, like it's trying to tell more of a story, I think, than just being like a general fairy tale spoof that happens to have.
If they had made the movie they wanted to make, I think it easily would have gone toe to toe with it. But yeah, I mean, because again, Don Bluth, he did some great stuff. You know?
Yeah,
he did some
for sure he did. One of my favorite. It's like a hero of mine. That's definitely a review series coming soon on the channel.
He was behind an American Tail, Tail.
So much fucking good stuff, dude. It's insane.
The Wildcat.
I would have put this on the level of like what would they call it? Of Hoodwinked. That's.
I gotta get this out there because the thought's with me now. But a lot of times they say fucking Hayao Miyazaki is like the fucking Japanese Walt Disney, but I think it'd be more accurate to say that he's the Japanese Don Bluth. You know.
Yeah.
Because Don Bluth didn't fuck around at all. You know, he didn't make the most movies of anybody that did that shit, but he made some fucking good ones. You know?
Right. Well, I mean, generally Miyazaki did too, but I think I know what you're saying. Like, he had a better track record possibly than Disney did. But I think part of what they're going for is when it comes to Japanese animation overall in the anime industry, Miyazaki and his partners at Ghibli, Suzuki and Takahata, they were instrumental in getting anime into even remotely the position it's in.
Oh, for sure. Where is the Wind on VHS for American kids back in the day is one of the best examples of like plugging that right in there at that perfect time where you get the shit going.
I don't disprove it. And for me personally, I fully agree that Don Bluth was instrumental. I mean, two of the first movies I ever saw in theaters were Land Before Time and All Dogs Go to Heaven. I mean, those were definitely, and I grew up on an American Tail. I mean, those were
American Tail, yeah.
But
my man,
I think Land Before Time and All Dogs Go to Heaven might have been the second and third movies I saw in theaters. Because I think the first one was the
that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Little did you know Land Before Time would go on to make like 1.5 billion films.
Right. I did not. No.
And every sequel has been the epitome of dog shit. I mean, the first two are the worst in the world. But, once you get beyond that fucking baby T-Rex, you're pretty much done. So,
they did go downhill fast.
What did y'all think?
I don't think I ever saw Five Goes West. I don't.
I saw that. I didn't see the first one. I only saw that one.
Dude, Five Goes West needs to be on your fucking docket immediately, Jay.
It's a good film.
I need to get both of those. Like that double feature should be a show.
Dude, Five Goes West. I wish I had proposed that for like a follow up to me and Dave's spaghetti western reviews that we did. That would have been like perfect because Five Goes West plays into a lot of that shit, and it's amazing.
Well,
so what about the? Speaking of the American Tail movies, because the first one especially was known for its music. How about Ice Age and its music? What would you say?
And this may not be the most popular opinion, but I don't give a damn. I love that Rusted Roots song that they play.
Dude, I have to be completely honest with you here. I was watching it with my kid, and by the time I was even thinking about the soundtrack, I was like just drunk eating a bag of pork rinds. So I don't fucking no. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Overall, the music didn't make much of an impression on me either until the end credits.
It's there.
Yeah. There was some nice music over the end credits, but yeah.
It might be one of those things, if I listened to it isolated, I'd appreciate it more. You know? Because certain scores are like that. You don't, it depends on their mix in the movie, too. Because sometimes a score is brilliant, but you don't hear enough of it. So it's, and it's put there to be a subconscious thing that you're not focusing on. So
David Newman was the composer behind Galaxy Quest. He was the composer.
One of my favorite movies.
But
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Did you have a standout part in the score, Brandon?
Not really. I was just asking to see if anybody else did. But I mean, yeah. I think that the song that they played at the end was pretty good. But otherwise, yeah, I didn't really have anything of major love on that. But to me, it didn't stand out much. It wasn't a spectacular one, but it did its job. I didn't think it was crap either. So
it's no Velocipaster, that's for sure.
They can't all be Velocipaster.
Yeah, true enough.
It is.
Okay. I wondered about that. So yes, like we said, the composer of this film is a David Newman. He's Thomas Newman's brother and cousin to Randy Newman. So yes, he kind of got overshadowed. What's that?
Is that the Lemonade guy?
The Lemonade guy?
That's Paul Newman, maybe.
Well, like we were talking earlier about Monsters, Inc., Randy Newman did the music for that, of course.
Oh, okay. My bad.
He scored the movie for the movies War, the Roses, Matilda, Bowfinger, Heathers.
Maybe that Paul Newman guy behind those drink mix.
Serenity, and Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel.
Woo!
Well, and notably another Don Bluth film, Anastasia. Yeah. Excellent film there. That one has
we might have to do a Don Bluth run on here one of these days. Yeah. I'm thinking that's something that deserves to happen.
Someone could propose Animation August.
One of the most Anastasia, one of the most Disney, non-Disney animated films out there.
Right? Yeah. You'd be forgiven if you thought your whole life it was a Disney movie. That's one that I always loved revealing to my friends. So,
if I ever do
it really is. It's been done many times. Yeah.
If we ever get to do our list of villain songs, In the Dark of the Night is a possibility. Of course,
be prepared.
December.
You guys ever done the Black Cauldron? That's a classic.
No, we have not.
No,
we haven't done very many animated films. Matter of fact,
we haven't.
In a way, doing this is not a bad thing because it allows us to do another animated film when we probably should have done one a long time ago.
Well, let's see
how many Fire and Ice Wizards. I mean, like there's other people that you guys definitely need to fuck with. For sure.
We did heavy metal, though, I believe. So
we did do heavy metal. We did do Coco, and
should do Fritz the Cat.
We've done several anime at this point.
We did an anime.
All that Ralph.
We actually did Anime August last time. So yeah.
Dirty Duck.
What's that?
We should do Dirty Duck.
Dirty Duck. I don't know that
one.
I know of it, but I haven't watched the full thing.
Or Coonskin 1 or 2.
My God. The things we have. So let's go into favorite scenes. So Dane, do you have a favorite scene in this film?
Probably the dodos, just because they're so weird. It's I mean, again, I'm not like super crazy on the movie as a whole, but like I think they were a notable addition just because they're like a doomsday cult, pretty much, and they're just so stupid, and that's always nice to see stupid characters meet grisly ends by their own hands. Because I'm a sick son of a bitch.
Which I have to admit, the ends that they were meeting, I'm like, wow. And Fox wanted this to be a kids' film. They're doing some.
Yeah, I like seeing them die horribly.
Actually, it was probably one of the most entertaining scenes in the film.
Exactly.
That line that Dave just screamed out. I had the feeling when I heard that, I'm like, I wonder if they did this whole scene because one of the writers said that.
Yeah.
I want Dodo.
Well, I like as far as like a sustained scene, I like that, and then the one little exchange that for whatever reason always stuck in my mind ever since I was a kid was the why am I the poop checker? It's like, isn't that that's a good metaphor for life there. Sometimes life just hands you a big pile of shit and says go check for poop, and you're like, why am I the poop checker? And then they give you all kinds of reasons, and you're like, why else?
Well, actually, I like what Ray Romano says there, because you're the one who got me into this in the first place.
Yeah. Hey, plus, you're small and insignificant, and because I'll pummel you if you don't. Why else? Now, Sid. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing always stuck out to me, and I think it was, and that was another thing that, like, kids' movies of that time period, and probably still today, when they didn't necessarily have a lot in the way of really original humor, they tended to go, oh, poop, kids like that. They tended to do that for their jokes.
Still true, dude.
But it is still true. But the part that, to me anyway, set that little bit above similar things was just the delightful phrase, why am I the poop checker? Because again, that's such a good metaphor for life.
So, Dave, what's your favorite scene?
I would have to say those two scenes myself. I mean, I think Dane paraphrases the metaphor of why am I the poop checker perfectly. So,
well, don't you agree? It's like it's a perfect. It can apply to so many areas of life.
Right. Exactly. I mean, who's to say who will be the next poop checker in life?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, life just kind of gives you whatever it jolly well feels like, and you ask yourself, why am I the poop checker? What did I do to deserve this? And life gives you all kinds of bizarre reasons that don't make a lot of sense, and you still got to do it.
And all I can think about is that Jurassic Park scene where she's like, I'm going to have to check the dinosaurs' droppings. And you got Mel over there saying, droppings?
Well, she was the poop checker there.
that is one big pile of shit.
Yeah. Which, again, perfect metaphor for life there.
So, Jake, what's your favorite scene in this?
I don't know that there's really a standout scene, any particular one. We've mentioned like the scene where they're trying to get the baby to stop crying. I found amusing, and I do agree with
baby.
Yeah. I did find it amusing in a somewhat of a dark and cynical way. I did find it amusing of the saber-toothed cat trying to do peekaboo with a baby. I'm like, no, you're not going to calm it down. That is a bad idea. And that overall, that sequence was pretty good. Yeah, and I agree a little bit. Those two scenes y'all are talking about are pretty good, but I can't really think of a standout scene. Yeah.
And let's see here. So I got that. Mo. What was your favorite scene?
I don't know, man. I think again, I would echo the sentiments of most of you guys that have already gone before. All those scenes were great. I think I was trying more to like focus on just looking at it as a story, so I didn't really think too much about the particular like highlight scenes. I was thinking more about the characters and things like that, and trying to just look at the movie as a movie instead of looking at it as some throwaway like children's animation shit. And I had a good time. I mean, I don't know. I think the movie as a whole is kind of a highlight. It's not the best animated movie ever, but I think it's also by far, by many, many, many leagues, not the worst. So,
certainly indeed.
Just a fun quest movie. If you strip away like all the bullshit and like the computer anim, if you filmed this with people, I think it would have turned out very similar, you know.
And they weren't even looking for fire.
Exactly.
Right.
Nor did
So
they.
that's basically my shit on it.
Nor did they turn into velocipastors.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, that should just be added into every movie from now on.
Yeah. Even Citizen Kane.
Do it. That part where he's trashing the room would have been great if he was like in Velocipaster mode.
Yeah.
Well, just think how much better Citizen Kane would have been with ninjas.
Right? See, I mean, that's the Sophie's Choice. Ninjas. Fucking doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the movie.
What if Kane and Romeo and Juliet were mixed with Velocipaster? That would be the thing.
I mean, they did do Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I mean, so they stuck zombies in there, and then I guess they did. They did another one, something, and I think it was, what was it, Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters or something. I'm probably getting that wrong, but
they didn't take a movie and put it into that yet. It is a.
We needed to do it at like those super touching moments in movies too. Just fucking ruin them. Like a ninja just swoops in and saves Jack from the fucking stupid door fiasco that happens in Titanic.
Actually, see, I've been doing a lot of viewing of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and they had an episode set in feudal Japan, and Mick Rory was going apeshit over the idea of ninjas. It was great. It was great seeing this character who's usually really stoic, just absolutely thrilled that there are ninjas around.
I would be too. I mean, even if I was about to die, I'd be like, dude, we're about to get killed by ninjas. Yeah.
Well, for me, my favorite scene was the ice cave. I love the dodo scene just because it was hilarious. But the ice cave to me was the one that had the most development, and it gave me a little bit more of an appreciation for the film. Whereas I did not have that otherwise. So to me, that was worthwhile to me. It was
lacking in the ninja department, but definitely a good scene.
Yes, they could have had ninjas frozen in the ice. What were they thinking?
Well, I guess that wraps us up this time around. And so we'll go ahead and we're going to just go through each of y'all and we'll move forward with our goodbyes. So we'll start with Jake.
Okay. Well, I'm Jake, and I have movie and anime and television and just general media fan and collector here in Virginia, and I am one of the a prominent member of the Septum Sin versus the World channel on YouTube, and also play a lot on this channel and the connected Delusions of Grandeur. I do have my own YouTube channel dedicated to nature and the natural world called under Kotobuki Jake. It's very, 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 very rarely updated, but I have ordered a new computer. Yes.
Yay.
And when it arrives, I may finally have the capability of home editing, and that may cause more videos. So be ready.
With that,
both you and Brandon are gonna eventually come over and do the Cinema Slut podcast with Mosley, where we just sit down one-on-one and get all romantic over a horror film. Yeah.
Hey, anytime you're ready for it, we're ready for it. You know, just don't make it too gory for Jake, because he has to.
I will make sure to. I'll have my lady
just find another Velocipaster.
I've got a couple ideas
right there. Matter
of fact, maybe a little street Rob trash Zombie might be.
Oh no.
The whole Rob Zombie film series, that should do it. Right?
No.
All right. Well, Dane, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am Dane Kyle, independent filmmaker out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've recently been doing Blu-ray unboxings on the Indie Horror Film Creative YouTube channel, where I will also be doing movie reviews formally, as well as a segment called No Money Film School, where I impart my wisdom upon onto the next generation of filmmakers, and just be a good place to keep the audience up to date about what all I'm doing with film. And once this end of the world zombie apocalypse, once it ends one way or the other, whether I am still human or zombified, either way, I will rise from the ashes and be able to do some new film projects. It's just going to be a matter of when and what kind and everything. I've been going through a lot lately, where I've just recently got settled with moving and and starting up my segments of the YouTube channel, and so now I need to determine, after this is all done, what I want to do in terms of a film project, and that kind of thing. And oh yeah, by the way, didn't make this clear in the pre-show, but the film that I acted in, which is Darkweb Mystery Box, that film is on YouTube for free for a few more days, and then you'll be able to get it on DVD on Mort House Films, on their website, and inevitably I'll have the link to be able to give to Brandon and David to put in the descriptions for these episodes, and that way you can see me act in front of the camera, which is something I'm trying to do more of. And
we're certainly proud of you for doing it, man.
And thank you for watching. Hopefully I did a good job.
I look forward to the opportunity to actually get that DVD. I did enjoy the movie, and I look forward to eventually getting, for anybody else to have the opportunity to watch one that you were also a part of, called For We Are Many, which was a great one. There's a review on our channel. So definitely some amazing stuff, and I look forward to seeing some amazing stuff from you in the
Yes,
yeah,
which
me and Dane only live a couple hours from each other, don't we?
Well, I live in North Carolina, and you said, you said you were in the Northwest. But yeah, I guess between me and Brandon and Jake, Virginia is obviously not far from here, but I have still not received my copy of For We Are Many. I'm going to need to email Laurie about that. I mean, from what I remember, I think
have you seen it as a whole?
Yeah, I haven't received my copy. Now, I think if I had to guess, I think that the virus probably has impeded the progress of getting things to us on time, but I will follow up on that.
I swore one of you guys lived in the Northwest. Maybe it's tripping.
You are the farthest west of us all.
That's fucked up, dude.
Well,
so I'd come to your house and just
country.
loiter in your fucking basement, Brandon. But I can't. I can't because it's so goddamn far away.
You could, well, and you might get arrested.
That's okay. I'm midway. You can come visit me, Mo.
You see, there you go. You start walking, and
we'll take some stops Dave. One day.
There's a basement, a little cage I can stick you in.
I need to see that Brandon basement in person.
You can just walk around in the woods, and we can just put a big title card that says Milwaukee.
I just need a place like under a car where it's not gonna rain, and I'll fucking sleep there while you let me watch your movies, Brandon.
Okay. Hey, we got a room downstairs. You're welcome to sit there and watch them all the time if you make your way over here.
I need about as much space as your average cat, you know.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and Drunken Master Studios.
Well, I just review old movies, you know, or new movies. So I'm trying to, you know, do more. I'm sure you've noticed, Brandon, with the like newer horror films lately. But typically, I fuck with like B movies, old '70s grindhouse shit, exploitation, sexploitation, blaxploitation, whatever type of exploitation you want to throw in there. And more recently, I've been doing a lot of like, you know, giant lizard movies. So if you want to watch a kaiju quarantine, come on over there to Drunken Master Studios and we'll set you up. We got a few movies reviewed so far. It's been pretty fun. I'm sure there's only going to be more good times in the future, and most of them are available online somewhere. So you're not limited by, you know, not having the movies physically. You can enjoy them with us. Hit us up. We'll get you set up with some giant lizard movies.
I definitely look forward to getting my kaiju on this summer when that Gamera set releases with Arrow.
Dude,
and got the opportunity to get the Godzilla set.
Brandon, you down to fucking like do all those reviews for those Gamera movies? Because I'm trying to like hold them back for like a good reason. I would be down to collab on those with you.
I'd love to just sit down and just do the reviews. That'd be a good reason to watch them all.
We could put them on your channel and my channel or something like that. Yeah.
See, some cool stuff in the future.
For sure.
Now, me and myself, I'm Septum Sen, a Septum Sen versus the world. We love physical media here. I don't think there's anybody here who's like, screw physical media. But I could be wrong. Case,
I love it.
We like to just look at the preservation of it and just enjoyment. And we do pick up videos. We talk about the things that are coming out. And we do other things like reviews, top 10 lists. Not as many as current because we're kind of separated. So we've been doing these live vlogcasts, which have just been fun. And not necessarily for everybody there, though the rest of you are willing to come in and participate. I love having more of you in on the conversation because we do it to have fun. It's there's a lacking of fun during this quarantine, and we need more fun. We need more enjoyment out of life.
Well, except for all the people that are dumb enough to drink bleach in this new world that we have. You know, I mean, that can be rather perversely amusing because you see these people taking themselves out of the gene pool without anybody having had to do anything.
Yeah, whatever you do, if you can drink bleach and handle it, that's pretty rad. But let's just watch fucking movies, okay? And
let's avoid
stay at home until they let us back out and we can just go back to normal.
That would be the preference, that's for sure.
What they meant was watching the TV series Bleach on anime.
That's it.
Oh, I love that meme. It's up to 400 episodes now. You're better off just not doing it.
But with that being said, we have a couple of cool things on the horizon. Matter of fact, I have a Naruto retrospective because I had finished finally watching the entire anime series from beginning to end, and I started that a long time ago. I was in college when I started watching it, and now I'm a slight bit out of college, just like a year or two. And it was just a cool thing to look at. Of course, two of them that have gotten a little bit of attention are the Brad Syke movies reviews, High Death and High 8, which I really like. Both great anthology horror films. I would definitely put High Death actually at a better level than I did VHS, and that's high praise because I loved VHS. So if you haven't seen those, definitely check them out and check out my reviews. And I also work for Inside Movies Galore, and part of this is in helping to arrange the movies for the month. But we're coming upon a special month. We've ended the prehistoric month, and we are going into Meet the Cast. Mm-hmm. I was hoping to have everybody set up for the month of May, but we're still a bit behind. So how I'm going to do this going forward is I'm going to just introduce the individual who is doing the film for the next week, and they can introduce the films for their pre-show and main show. And that person is our very own David Streggy, who is going to be the spotlight of next week.
So my name is David Streggy. I am the founding father of Inside Movies Galore, and I thank all of you for joining me on this journey of films, no matter how stupid they may be, or how advanced they are. I mean, there are a lot of different sides to film, and each of us has our own views in it. And I love that we've captured our own voices and grown as a group, and each of us have progressed in life because of our discussions and these things. But I also moonlight on my own channel, Delusions of Grandeur, where I put up video collection videos and video reviews of my own. But I've also gotten a lot of interviews with directors and things that may inspire people to get a look at the inside of some of these independent filmmaking journeys. So definitely check some of those out. I think the last person that I interviewed was James Bellissimo. So definitely check that interview. I had Foxtrot Media Productions come back on and discussed some of the films that he did. So check out Amir Skalanja's interview that I did, and this time it was a video interview. So check out that. But this next week, I figured we'd since we have talked about a level of stupid films, at least to me, these were like some of the lowest of the low that came out on Wild Eye. It's like, why the fuck did they pick them up? And I want to go through that with you guys, if you don't mind. Because to me, when all of you talk about how bad this film is, well, let me show you worse. So join me and join us in this journey of retrospectiveness next week as we go through American Mummy and the Jurassic Dead. That's pre-show, the American Mummy and the Jurassic Dead being the main show. So definitely check those out. It's going to be entertaining, and I think it'll be entertaining for all of us because we have so many different levels of perspective. So in any case,
oh my,
Thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And please, please stay away from those acorns.
And bleach.